There's the question of disinformation, right? Like, you could conceivably give people a bunch of nonsense and tell them about it, knowing that some of it is going to leak, and it's going to make, and it won't be verified, and it's going to make this whole story seem even more ridiculous and make people less likely or reluctant to study it.
Totally. And in his case, he says that he was in this, mountain base or whatever, where all of the world's nations were working together as part of some collegial UN style space program or whatever. So that to me might be a little, beyond the pale. And I'm glad you made that point, because that is ufology 101. And I've heard you be incredibly exhausted and frustrated at UFO disclosure. And I think that is the reasonable response. It is limited hangouts on limited hangouts. It's just, we're going to give you a little bit, but we're also going to sprinkle in some falsities and some bullshit. We're going to stigmatize it. And it kind of works because it creates this initiation path for recruiting. If there are any of these programs, it widens the surface area. It both conditions the populace, but also stigmatizes the thing and makes it seem like kind of a joke. And so I think if you are not viewing modern disclosure through that kind of hermeneutic lens of interpretation, and you're just taking it, accepting it, imbibing it wholeheartedly, prima facie, I think you are in trouble.
Yeah. But that's what's so interesting and fun and also frustrating about the subject.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the majority of your videos. It's I don't know. I don't know what to think. I don't know who's full of shit. I don't know how much. I mean, I was watching the Townsend Brown one today. And you were talking about John Lear and John Lear's connection to Bob Lazar and the possibility that Lear was spreading disinformation.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I've, by the way, since making that video, I've become more positive on Lazar, just insofar as I think he was at S4 Area 51. And there's going to be a great documentary coming out by my buddy Luigi on this called Project Gravatar. And I think there's going to be a lot of corroborating evidence that he was at least there, and a lot in his story checks. But I think you have to view, and I even say that in this video, that I think a lot of the story could be true. You can't, I think, view the Bob Lazar story. You can't just take it at face value, because John Lear and he were friends. John Lear is this babbling UFO nut. He's obsessed with UFOs. He's writing weird, disinfo-y style stuff with Bill Cooper, Behold the Pale Horse guy.
Which is a wild book.
Yeah. And so he's crazy. Bill Cooper.
Doesn't he talk about bases on the moon?
He talks about bases on the moon. Lear also talked about a soul catcher that controlled our souls on the moon.
Oh boy.
And so Lear was flooding the zone with all sorts of weird shit. Lear comes from an interesting family.
Right.
His father is Bill Lear, who's the autopilot wizard. He created the first business, basically the first private jet, the Learjet, in the 50s and 60s, and was an associate of a guy I hope we talk about named Thomas Townsend Brown.
Yeah.
And so I think, Lear was engaging in all sorts of bullshit. Was he a useful idiot, or was he a sophisticated agent provocateur? I'm totally open to him having been a useful idiot. In fact, there is a video of him saying, I was told, I was given all the Bob Lazar files or whatever, and I was told about, to actually, he said a guy named Admiral McClellan knew that I ran my mouth. I even have this video actually on the doc that I sent you, Jamie. He says, knew that I ran my mouth. So that's why we got Bob a job or whatever. And we knew that part of this stuff would leak. And it was this limited hangout strategy on behalf of this guy named Admiral McClellan or whatever. And he was this useful idiot to sort of get it out. And I think
For what purpose?
Recruiting. You give people high level. Yeah.
Here, we hear it here.
And the MJ personnel, the original 12, have all passed away. So they get different people into these positions of MJ 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and taken over. It's degraded, so it's almost political now instead of like it was when Truman originally formed the MJ-12. It turns out that MJ-1, the head of MJ-12, is a guy named Admiral Mike McClellan. He wanted to get some of the information out because he didn't want to. He thought that some of this information should be out in the public. We don't need to keep all this secrecy. So he decided trying to figure out a way to get it to the public. So he knew that I was a blabbermouth and I would tell anything I knew. They investigated Bob Lazar and they knew that he was a genius, but that he had a background such that they could instantly discredit him. They removed all his records from MIT, from Caltech, so he couldn't prove anything. He'd go back to Cal, no, I don't see any records here. And, well, I was here. Well, no, you weren't. And he also, up in Reno at one time, he ran a cat house there. I forget what the name of the Honeysuckle Ranch it was. So they chose him because not only could he probably help them because he was so smart, and as Mac, he's the one that named Ununpennium 115. He's the one that told them what that was, and they didn't know when he went there. They didn't know what it was. He was the one that told them that's element 115, and then told them why and how he'd figured it out. But they decided to pick on Bob to go up there to work at S4 because they knew that Bob would tell me instantly and that I would blab the whole thing. And that was their modus operandi, was to get the information out and gauge what it did to the public, how they accepted it, and then pull back and say, oh, no, it was all a mistake. Bob Lazar is a fraud. He never worked here. He doesn't have any credentials like that. And they could back away and get out of it. So that was what Mike McClellan came up with.
Isn't that crazy?
Weird.
And to me,
Kind of makes sense a little bit, though.
it does. And that doesn't make Bob Lazar still not the most interesting story in the world. Like he's not saying it didn't happen, right? He's just saying that this happened as part of this limited hangout strategy where they knew that they could delete the records at MIT. They knew that they could stigmatize him because of the brothel. They knew that he was this not traditionally trained engineer who just happened to strap a ramjet on the back of a Honda or whatever and meet Edward Teller serendipitously. They knew that they had plausible deniability on all of that stuff. There's a great line in the Oppenheimer movie where Leslie Groves, played by Matt Damon, says, "I didn't hire Oppenheimer in spite of his communist sympathies. I hired him because of them." So if you have a top secret program, you want compromise on people. You want to be able to blackmail them. And so I think, that should be taken at face value, in my opinion. And the reason that the story itself can't be taken at face value and needs to be seen through that lens is Lear and Bob Lazar were friends before Bob Lazar got a job at Area 51, S4. And so if you have a top secret program, you're going to do a basic background check. And Lear is going to come up as a guy with a UFO blog, right? And then the CIA is all over the UFO program, right? And he was flying CIA cargo jets. And he says that he disaffiliated in 83. That's bullshit. George Knapp and Jeremy Corbell have talked about how that's BS. And actually disaffiliated much later into the mid-'80s or whatever. Why would you continue to pay a guy who is leaking your crown jewel secrets? And then the guards at Area 51 knew John Lear. John Lear and Jim Goodall, his buddy, who's a photographer, had been camping out at Area 51 for the better part of a decade. Like the security guards there knew him. Jeremy Corbell has talked about in interviews, like I would go with John Lear and he would show me around or whatever, and they would like let him through. And before leaking the Bob Lazar story to George Knapp, he leaked a story about the F-117, which is the first stealth craft in the U.S. And so I think that helped establish sort of, credibility or legitimacy. Was he a useful idiot or agent provocateur? I don't know. There's a photo of John Lear with G. Gordon Liddy, who's like as deep and spooky as it gets.
I met him.
No way.
He was on Fear Factor.
No way.
Yeah.
G. Gordon Liddy was on Fear Factor?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
You're not messing with me.
No. G. Gordon Liddy was on Fear Factor. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, he probably would have won, but there was a driving thing at the end, and he couldn't drive well without glasses. And you weren't allowed to wear glasses? Yeah, look at that. G. Gordon Liddy.
And John Lear. That is the most gonzo thing I've ever... G. Gordon Liddy was on... How does he... Did you have like a quota of like...
It was Celebrity Fear Factor.
Celebrity Fear Factor.
Yeah.
That's wild, man.
He's a fascinating guy. Like, he was intense.
I can only
meeting
imagine.
him, I was like, okay.
What was he like?
fucking intense. There was one of the things where you had to be hung by your ankles, and like, there he is.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
G. Gordon Liddy on Fear Factor.
Yeah, he looks nuts.
Oh yeah, he was nuts, and he was very old at the time. But I think that's what fucked him up. But in the final stunt, he couldn't see well without his glasses, and so this is the thing they had to like. I forget what they had to do. They had to they were dunked into the water over and over again, and then they had to like take flags off of them or something like that.
Oh my God.
Yeah, wild.
Wild. Did you sneak any questions in?
No,
Like-
I didn't. You know, I didn't have much time to talk to him, unfortunately. But you could just tell talking to him. Like,
Yeah.
he was one intense motherfucker, even as an old man.
Did you get sociopathic vibes?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Just like he'll do whatever the fuck it takes to get the job done.
You
you
pulled off Watergate.
Yeah, look at him there.
Oh my God.
Crazy.
Crazy.
Yeah,
That
G.
is
Gordon Liddy.
hilarious. Unbelievable. What an amazing. That just sure. I mean, you've had a lot of crazy experiences in life.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's a weird one.
That's
That
a
was a
weird
weird one because everybody was, they weren't, the people that were on the show weren't nearly as fascinated as I was. I was like, do you know how fucking wild that dude is? Yeah, I mean, that guy is deep. He's deep in there.
Deep.
Yeah.
Very deep. Oh my God. That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Wild. It's a gonzo moment.
Yeah, for sure. Like, very strange. Like, why would you do this? It was, I don't even understand why he did it.
It's proof we live in a simulation.
Yeah, maybe. It was very strange. Like, what would be his objective? Like,
I feel people like that love fucking around. They love getting a rise out of people,
Maybe.
and they love, if he is a sociopath, he loves, going back to the scene of the crime and just as much attention as he can get. I don't know. I can't psychoanalyze G. Gordon Liddy.
he'd famously put cigarettes out on himself, and hold his hand under flames.
I didn't know that. That's
Yeah,
nuts.
just to show that he could control his response to pain.
Psychopath.
Yeah, and he felt like that when you're around him. Like so that thing that they had to do where they got dunked and they're hanging by their ankles and dunked into water, so it disorients you while you're trying to do this task. He did it better than anybody.
And they just couldn't
At like
drive.
150 years old or whatever the fuck he was.
Yeah.
I felt like we're gonna kill him. He's like really old to be doing this intense physical thing to him. Yeah, but at the end, he just couldn't see at night. As when you get old, your nighttime vision is real bad.
Poor G. Gordon Liddy.
Yeah, but so how did Lazar know what element 115 was?
I don't know. So element 115, elements are just differentiated by the number of protons. So it is easy to predict there will be an element 115 before element 115 gets discovered. If they have, I think they don't have a stable version of Moscovium, which is element 115. And so if they can find some stable version, I think he'll be super vindicated based on that.
Well, they think he has a stable version.
I know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
And
very
they
good.
think that was part of, during Jeremy Corbell's documentary that he was doing on Lazar, he was raided by the FBI. They raided his lab, and he thinks that's what they were looking for.
That is wild.
Yeah.
I think there is so much real about the Lazar story. I think he was at S4. I think he met Edward Teller. I think he was at Los Alamos. I think he was at MIT. I know there's some stuff he told you offline. MIT's engaged in a lot of spooky stuff where you can't talk about what you were doing. There's a lot of federally funded weird stuff going on
If
there.
you want to teach your people how to do something that's kind of fucked up, you would send them to MIT.
100%.
Yeah.
EG&G came from Doc Edgerton, who was, MIT faculty, and that's where he ended up working after meeting Edward Teller was EG&G. So I believe there's a lot in that story that's super true. I'm just, that lens, you need to apply that lens.
Right.
The limited hangout lens.
Well, it's also like, what is he dealing with really? Like, what is the craft? Is that thing ours? Did we have something in 1988 that was that sophisticated, or is that really back engineered?
That's the
What is it a mind fuck?
That's the $1 trillion question. Is this tech protect? This is at a time when stealth craft had just came on the scene. And you had...
When did stealth technology first get implemented?
It was the F-117 was the first stealth craft. That was the early 80s. And you had actually this guy named Pyotr Ufimtsev, who is this...
what a name.
Yeah, a great name. Early 20th century Russian mathematician that Ben Rich and some of his engineers at Lockheed Skunk Works had resuscitated. There's this kind of disagreement between Ben Rich, who is the incoming Skunk Works director. Skunk Works is the most advanced R&D division of Lockheed Martin. And Kelly Johnson, the legendary guy who had started Skunk Works. And so Ben Rich was very pro-stealth. He thought that this was this really important modality. And he and a couple of his engineers resuscitated this obscure Russian mathematician to reduce radar cross-sections on planes. And that's where the F-117 came, and the B-2 was sort of the response to that, and it sort of took off in the 80s. And he was extremely scared about tech protection at the time, and he was hyper vigilant, and he would actively complain about it. And he even called UFOs unfunded opportunities at the time. Pretty crazy, right? So that's the backdrop. And there's also, in 1986, there's a budget line item in the congressional budget for $2 billion for the Aurora. And this is this super stealthy craft that's post F-117. And that's only rumored. Like today, nobody will admit that the Aurora might have been real. And the aerial surveys at the time were picking up sonic booms that weren't being created by the SR-71 or the space shuttle. And so there was something being flown around at that time that was, causing these sonic booms that was unaccounted for.
Whoa.
And Bob Lazar, there's even a clip of him saying, "I saw the Aurora. It was like, it was around at the time, and it sort of just took off or whatever," which is, I think, a point in the direction that Lazar himself is very earnest and probably did experience some very weird stuff, because why are you exposing some probably classified tech? I think there's a lot of reasons to believe that the Aurora was real. There was an oil rig engineer in the North Sea, maybe it might have been the Black Sea, that sketched it out, and Bill Sweetman, this Jane's Defense Weekly aviation journalist, picked that story up.
What did he describe it as?
This kind of... It was a triangle similar to the B-2, but I think more narrow, and it just flew incredibly fast, like faster than the F-117, and I don't know. It was just super advanced.
Can you envision? Would it be actually possible in 1988? Listen, I think the drones are looking for a nuclear bomb, and I am going to leave New Jersey. Where should I go?
To Montana.
How far away should I go? Oh, that's okay. If you leave New Jersey as a precautionary measure, here are some suggestions for place to relocate temporarily.
You're doing good.
Head west. Okay, so now we're getting better. So now it's saying go further away.
Wow.
Colorado, scroll back up so I can read that, where it said Colorado. Consider Durango, Grand Junction, or areas outside of Denver. These are safe and equipped with modern infrastructure. They're telling you to move. This is telling you to get away from big cities.
Durango.
Tennessee, the Smoky Mountain region, and Gatlinburg or Knoxville provides natural beauty, lower cost of living, and a sense of isolation. They're telling you how to rebuild civilization. Okay, if a nuke goes off.
Where to go?
If a nuke goes off on the East Coast, type this in, Jamie. If a nuke goes off on the East Coast, where should I be to be safe?
Oh my gosh.
If you're concerned about potential nuclear incident, here's a list of safest options based on geographic, environmental, and strategic factors. Montana, Colorado, Wyoming, Idaho, sparsely populated, vast distances from major cities and military targets. Towns like Bozeman, Jackson Hole, Sandpoint are beautiful, remote, and away from the fallout paths. Jesus Christ.
I'm curious, what would happen if you asked ChatGPT, is it?
GPT,
if what percentage of UAP represented non-human intelligence?
Okay, that's a good one. What percentage of UAP represent a non-human intelligence?
Really curious.
I was just pulling it from the internet.
I know, but let's see what
still.
it says. Could represent non-human intelligence remains unknown and speculative. current investigations by UAP organizations like the U.S. government emphasize the following. Most UAPs have conventional explanations. Oh, this is Project Blue Book bullshit.
So 5 or 10% of UAP cases remain unidentified even after thorough analysis. These cases, I was like 15 to 20, but yeah, 5 to 10%.
Evidence inconsistent with known human technology. No conclusive evidence for non-human intelligence. While some UAP cases are puzzling, the government has not officially... Okay. But type this in. Commander David Fravor encountered a tic-tac shaped craft in 2005. Well, 2004.
2003.
Okay, 2003. That defied our understanding of known physics. Period. What do you think he saw?
Wow.
2004
I'm sorry.
encounter with tic-tac-shaped craft remains
2004.
one of the most compelling and well-documented UAP cases in modern history. Key details of the encounter. Craft describes smooth, white, oblong, resembling a tic-tac, no visible propulsion, wings or exhaust, displayed extraordinary flight characteristics, accelerated instantly from a hovering position, descended from 80,000 feet to near sea level in seconds. Fravor reported the object mimicked his movements during their engagement and then vanished at extreme speed. It's possible the craft was an ultra-secret military project, either U.S.-based experimental aerospace technology, or developed by another nation. However, the extreme flight performance raises doubts. Such advanced technology would suggest a significant leap beyond publicly known capabilities, which is inconsistent with current engineering limits. Sensor anomaly or perception issues.
I asked the heads of Aero if they could explain that one, and they said no.
No, type this in.
It's a really good case.
If all accounts of the capabilities of the tic-tac craft are true, what are the possibilities that it came from another planet?
If the accounts of aircraft capabilities are accurate, instantaneous acceleration, hypersonic speeds without propulsion, no heat signatures.
Say it loud so people can hear you.
Okay, so if the accounts of the Tic Tac craft's capabilities are accurate, instantaneous acceleration, hypersonic speeds without visible propulsion, no heat signatures, and defiance of inertia, then the possibilities of origin being extraterrestrial or from another planet become a viable hypothesis.
Here's why. The physics of the Tic Tac craft. Reported behavior of the craft suggests technology that operates beyond our current understanding of physics and propulsion systems. No visible propulsion. It implies propulsion system unrelated to conventional jets or rockets. Instantaneous acceleration defies inertia in Newtonian physics. Achieving this would require manipulating gravity or space-time itself. Silent operation, no sonic booms despite hypersonic speeds, points to a technology that likely eliminates air resistance, such as surrounding itself in an electromagnetic field or bubble. This level of technological advancement far surpasses anything developed on Earth. If true, such capabilities would suggest a highly advanced civilization, perhaps thousands or millions of years ahead of us scientifically. If true, where do you think it came from?
And
Type that.
This was 20 years ago.
The work that it had to say.
I know, but if true, where do you think it came from? How about this?
It's still typing.
It's still typing.
Wow.
Jesus
I'm not
Christ.
giving you that answer
Final
here.
thoughts. Look at this. Writing a whole turn paper on
Yeah,
this.
it's amazing how fast it does it
God.
too. It's amazing how fast it does it.
Wow.
The Tic Tac, if the Tic Tac UAP is real and the accounts are accurate, then its origin may very well be extraterrestrial or involve unknown physics and technology that we haven't begun to comprehend. The extraordinary nature of the case suggests an equally extraordinary explanation. What do you think? Why are you asking me, bitch? You're ChatGPT.
What do you think?
Does extraterrestrial visitation seem plausible, or is there another explanation that resonates more with you? So type this. I believe it seems plausible that they are extraterrestrial in nature.
Good luck. I was going to say that's good.
If true, where do you think they came from? Let's see. Identifying where they might come from involves exploring nearby stellar systems, known exoplanets, and plausible scientific ideas about interstellar travel. Here are the most likely possibilities. Nearby star systems with habitable zones. Alpha Centauri system, 4.37 light years away, the closest star system to Earth. Proxima Centauri, potentially habitable planet, exoplanet orbiting Proxima Centauri within a habitable zone. If life developed there, it might be technologically advanced enough for interstellar exploration. Bernard, so it's giving me a list of all
the potential
different
possibilities,
possible star systems.
Wow.
This one's only 39 light years away.
What was the closest one? Alpha Centauri was that? Was that 4 light years or something?
I don't know. Scroll back up.
Let's scroll back up a little bit.
I said 3.9.
3.9 million.
4.3.
Alpha
Centauri, 4.3 light years
pretty
away.
close.
Wow! But here's the crazy part.
Pretty close.
You remember the twin paradox theory? They say that if you get like 2 twins, right, as kids, say one's 10, they're both 10,
Right.
and you put one in a spaceship that travels the speed of light for 1 year, he would come back with an atomic clock on board that spacecraft a year older. He'd be 11, and his brother would be an old man. I can't wrap my mind around that.
Right. But
But they say it's pretty much fact.
But that's speed, right? I think what we're talking about is different than speed. I think it's instantaneous relocation.
right. So, in other
I
words,
think
you would
I think instead of like
manipulate the space
right,
time between the 2 points.
right. So I think the idea is that instead of a rocket that goes 5 million miles an hour and just shoots off of Earth and keeps going until it 5 million years from now it runs into this planet. I think it's different than that. I think if I had to guess where something can manipulate gravity and space, what it would do is instantaneously appear in these new places.
And you've talked to a lot of physicists about this kind of stuff, huh?
I have, and the way they explain it is baffling. And Bob Lazar's version of it is baffling because Bob Lazar's version of it that he told in 1989 kind of makes sense when you talk to people that are trying to develop some sort of a gravity or a warp drive.
Right.
And the way Bob Lazar explained it is that this element, when bombarded with radiation, creates this, I'm really butchering it for sure, creates some sort of a gravity field that allows it, the way he described it, like if you took a mattress, a very soft mattress, and put a very heavy bowling ball in the middle of the mattress, it pushes the mattress down to that area, and that this like folds time.
Right. So you go from here
Yes.
to here, but when you stretch it down, suddenly those 2 points connect.
It folds it. Yeah.
Right.
And so wherever it is, it's,
Wow.
it's here. So it's not like it's going a million light years,
So it's
a
malleable.
million light years an hour. Yeah.
Space is malleable.
Exactly.
It's just
Well, it makes sense if you think about how technology scales.
Yeah.
And if we do, I mean, Ryan brought up this yesterday as well, that there was research and there was papers written about the idea of having some sort of a gravity drive or having some sort of a gravity propulsion system, something that doesn't rely on conventional, rockets,
Yeah, we're not
pushing
doing it jet
gases
A
out
fuel,
the back.
that's for sure.
Exactly. And he said that this was something that was discussed a long time ago, but then it just stopped. And then, and we brought it up quite a while ago. There was an episode that we brought up a paper that was written in the 1960s about gravity drives.
was that by Hal Puthoff?
I do not know.
Because he's like a propulsion expert in terms of the propulsion behind the physics behind UFOs.
Yeah.
And I tried to get him to explain it to me in sort of conventional layman terms, and of course my tiny little brain. But I felt like I almost grasped it for a moment, but the amount of power that it would take to create that gravitational field around the object. And he said that's why you see them doing these maneuvers that look like it defy physics, right? And then everything inside the craft would just splatter. That you're immune from that on the inside, according.
Which also would
I'm
make
so
sense.
not a physicist. What am I talking
Right,
about?
but that would also make sense if you had something like that you could go in the ocean as well, right?
yeah. So
Because whatever's around you wouldn't matter because you're not affected by it.
right, you're somehow creating a field around
Exactly.
you. That's immune to whatever.
Right. But that would be
Space,
the only thing that would make sense how it could move so fast underwater.
atmosphere, space, water.
And how it would be transmedium.
Yeah.
It can go from space into the water. It's unaffected by gravity. It's unaffected by all the things around it. It creates its own gravity field, and it allows it to just pass through things.
I remember Kirk McConnell, who Senate Armed Service Committee, who investigated UFOs from 2017. I talked about him earlier, but he said that they were picking up Aegis radar systems were picking these objects up from basically from space, and they were shooting down from space all the way down. They'd loiter for as long as they wanted to, go in the water, come back out again, shoot back up into space, and they would just do it like, all day long. And there was nothing.
Well, we can't see that, right?
I don't know
if someone does have, if there's someone in the military that does have some like super advanced satellite reconnaissance imagery of these things, I could see why they would hold that back. I could see why they would think that people aren't ready for that. I could see it.
Do you think Elon knows?
He's real cagey about it.
He is cagey about it, and he's got deals with the DOD, and he's got satellites and everything.
That's probably why. I'd be cagey about it too.
He knows more than what he's saying.
This is what he said. If aliens are real, they're very subtle. That's what he was saying. I was like, I don't know if they're subtle, man. The Phoenix Lights wasn't that subtle. If that's aliens.
I heard from some people around him that because of his contracts with DOD, that he kind of keeps quiet about it because
I'm sure
everybody talks about. Even Ratcliffe talked about the satellite imagery of UAP. If they're picking it up, why wouldn't his systems pick it up?
He hasn't said a peep about the drone thing.
And you haven't asked him about it?
Nope. If he wants to tell me, he'll tell me. I'm not going to be that guy. I'm not going to be annoying. But publicly, like on X, has he said anything about the drones?
He said something a couple weeks ago, I believe. I think it was a couple weeks ago. I'll check right now. But it's like there's a big drone storm or a big drone fight coming, and people are taking that as like he knew this was happening.
A big drone fight coming?
Well, he has been real public about the idea that building manned fighter jets is at this point kind of foolish, and I think he's correct.
So unpiloted only.
Yeah, I think
takes the fun out of it.
Well, it takes the biological mistakes out of it, is what it does.
Right.
It takes the human mind out. The human mind is very fallible. We already know that AI systems, like Mike Baker explained to us, that AI systems with fighter jets beat actual fighter jet pilots 100% of the time. So when they have these simulated, when they have these simulated dogfights, when they take AI fighter jets that we have right now, they beat our fighter jet pilots, the best of the best, 100% of the time. So they don't have any biological limitations in terms of what they can deal with G-forces.
Yes. Yeah. Don't need.
So you have that, right? So all you have to do is make the equipment and the materials robust enough so they can take insane speeds and not blow apart. But it certainly would be way easier to do that than it would be to get a human being to be safe in it.
So much less badass, though.
Recently.
So what is he saying? Oh, so he clicked on it. Future wars are all about drones and hypersonic jets. So this is us talking about that. This is us talking about fighter jet pilots by humans will be destroyed very quickly. So he talked about it. So he put a clip up of us talking about it on the podcast. This was in November 28th. And so neither side has air superiority, and tanks are easily destroyed by missiles. So that leaves infantry and artillery, basically World War I. Drones are not yet available in sufficient numbers to matter, much like aircraft in World War I. A defense in-depth trench war means, and then some modern example.
That was like 2 years ago.
So did you get the impression when you spoke to Elon about UFOs?
Have you ever seen anything?
I saw something once, and it was right after 9/11, and it was weird because I'd seen this fireball kind of go through the sky like a day or two earlier. This was all during the no-fly period of time, right after 9/11. But what I saw that was, I still don't know what the fuck it was, I was driving my girlfriend from Akron she went to school at the time, she was going to Oberlin, this really liberal school out in the middle of nowhere in Ohio, and I was driving out there, and it's on the way towards the FAA headquarters is like in Lorain or Elyria, Ohio. That's where they monitor all the flights for North America or for the United States. And anyway, I was driving out there, and I saw this thing hovering over a house, and it was I took note because like no fly zone. It was like
right.
And it looked like a helicopter or something, like because there was a light coming down, but no other lights, and but it was like only 100 feet above this house in the middle of nowhere, right along the same stretch of road where I'd seen this fireball a couple days earlier. And I was driving a stick shift Ford Escort, and I put it in neutral and rolled down the windows as I got closer, and there was like no sound coming from this thing. And my girlfriend had like one of those Nextel phones, the early cell phone, and she turned it on because like you should call someone, like call the police or something. This is insane. And the minute like the screen turned on, this thing just like took off. It didn't go like thousands of miles an hour, but it went really, really fast. It made no sound. It just was like, whoop. That's the only thing I've ever seen. But I still don't know what the fuck it was.
Wow.
But you see weird shit like in Ohio because there's Wright-Patterson Air Force Base there.
Yeah.
One time I was driving, we were on tour. I was driving us and right like for the tree lines on the side of the road, and right I'm just driving and a Harrier just like pops up. You know, those planes that can kind of just popped up like right maybe 100 yards from the road. But yeah, that's where they apparently keep the alien corpses, you know.
Yeah, that's what they supposedly flew the wreckage from Roswell, New Mexico to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base.
It's a good place to keep it because I'm from Ohio and I've never actually been into Dayton, Ohio. So just the outside of Dayton.
If they do still have that there, that's really rude. You should let people see that. Yeah. If you guys really did find a fucking crashed UFO, how about a little heads up? It's rude. It's rude that they've had it for so long, and we've just been people go to their grave just guessing.
Don't they say that like the recovered, apparently the recovered materials and stuff, they, in order to not have to turn it over to the public, they keep just giving it to private defense contractors.
Really?
That's who holds the material. I think that's what.
Well, I would imagine if I was the government and I had a crashed UFO, that's why I'd bring it to the private defense contractors. They're already good at keeping secrets. They already know how to make your weapons, and they know how to do stuff that you don't know how to do. They're doing it for you. Like, it's not like the fucking government themselves makes the missiles. They hire people to make the missiles.
There's this massive building in Akron called the Air Dock. It was built in the late 20s. So they could build blimps because they used to build all the blimps in Akron.
It's incredible. Looks like Star Wars.
I mean, it's fucking nuts.
Because it's right in the middle of a neighborhood.
It rains.
Whoa.
It has its own atmosphere. It rains inside there.
Whoa.
Yeah. It's the most ominous looking structure. It's so fucking long and big. It's like,
holy shit.
Yeah.
That's so big.
And it's like right, you know, it's like you can see it from like the whole south side of the city. But now they have like this crazy perimeter around it. It's Lockheed Martin, I think, controls it. Like, what the fuck are they building in there? But you can't get close to it. You can't get close at all.
What they're building there is probably minor league stuff. The stuff they build out in the middle of nowhere,
That's
in the
what I'm saying.
desert, carved into the mountain, that's the scary shit.
That's what I'm saying.
I think most of what people are seeing is a government aircraft. Like
for
either
sure.
a drone or something.
That's why they won't even acknowledge the hypersonic missile. Like they just announced that they were like discontinuing research on the hypersonic missile when clearly they must have the, you know, it must be fully operational.
Yeah, I would imagine they would tell us. Like, they don't have to.
Yeah,
That's
no.
one of the most incredible things about the way the government works.
Yeah.
Is that the amount of money that they get. That was the argument for the reason why this hasn't been disclosed. Like, the government doesn't want to come out and say,
Well,
it was the
yeah.
money allocation. Like, you had to have lied to Congress about where the money was going.
Well, someone was saying like it's like the opposite of brinkmanship. Like there's weapons that exist that if other countries knew they existed, would just be such a fucking threat that it would cause a war. Just the idea that someone had something like that no other country had, you know, that you could wield that kind of weapon. So there's
Right.
like these weapons that get invented that have to remain top secret because it would just upend the whole fucking power structure.
So this was
Yeah.
33 was the first documented.
That is the earliest one I can talk about. Yeah.
There's something that predates that?
You could infer that.
You could infer that.
Yeah.
So this 33 one you said was in Italy?
Yeah, magenta. So it's I'm bad at geography. I think that's like Lombardy region. It's like northwest Italy.
And what's the story behind it?
So basically, it it looked like it crashed, right? The original shape most likely was like a lenticular disc-like craft, with like two dinner plates.
What
right?
does lenticular mean?
So like two dinner plates, smushed together, right? The hump, and there's like a like a bubble on top.
The
if you will.
classic flying saucer.
like that.
Like that. Okay.
But it looks like when it hit, the edges broke off, so it became this like bell or acorn shaped thing. And there was nothing in it. It was like just an artifact. There was no biological remnants, if you will. So it's so funny because the Italians were so confused. They actually called up the Germans and they were like, is this one of your Wunderwaffe? Like, what the hell just crashed in northern Italy? Mussolini. And this is all publicly available information because some Italian researchers found all these original documents that some people were sitting on for years in Italy. They put a gag order on the press, etc. And Mussolini asked the Germans to come down. And of course, the Germans came down and they were like, that is not ours, but let's look at it together. So that's kind of perhaps a tertiary reason the kind of Axis powers got together. I'm not saying that's like the reason, but I think the Italians and the Germans were so intrigued with what they found from like an artifact perspective. There was at least some scientific and military collaboration during the war, the details of which I'm not sure of, but I know people that know that specific event that are currently still intel officers within this program in detail. But
so was there witnesses to the crash or some sort of an understanding that something had crash landed and then they discovered it?
Yeah, I forget the precise discovery. I don't know if it was like local police officers or local farmers found it in the field, something like that. I don't want to misspeak. I assume some of the Italian researchers might have some fact witnesses that can orally say, "Oh yeah, my great-grandfather found it" or something like that. But I don't remember.
And what was the scale of this vehicle?
It was probably like 20 feet by 10 feet, something like that. Not super huge, but kind of big.
Do they think that this was a drone? Do they think that this was occupied?
There was nothing in it. So if it was piloted, if you will, by some sentience, I mean, your guess is as good as mine. So.
So what happened to that vehicle?
So we knew where it was being stored at a particular location after the crash, and then the military came in and we grabbed it towards the end of the war, 1944, 1945, because, like I said, Pope Pius XII already kind of let FDR know.
Why did the Pope get involved? Because it's in Italy?
Well, interestingly enough, there's like a whole history of human intelligence prior to World War II and old money, the Vatican, the Italian mob, kind of the old country boys did a lot of informal intelligence collection for the U.S. And there's probably some books you can read on it, but it's really interesting. Human intelligence collection wasn't really formalized until the Office of Strategic Services, the OSS, which became the CIA in 1947. You had Paul Mellon and all these other affluent guys of all these old money families that basically created the CIA. So that's probably the reason why.
So this thing that was recovered, this was the first documented one that the United States had access to?
I can't get into if it was the first or not, but it was an early one.
Very early.
Yeah.
So it's almost 100 years ago.
Yes.
And so they take this thing and then they bring it where?
Yeah, I can't get into those.
Can't get into
details.
that.
No.
Okay. So they bring it somewhere in the United States. And was the attempt to try to back engineer this thing? Was the attempt to try to understand what it was?
Yeah, I mean, first of it, obviously, it's understanding the situation, right? What do we have our hands on? And like I've said in some other videos and stuff, we took the Manhattan Project secrecy and overlaid it on this issue because that secrecy worked well for atomic bomb developments and whatnots. And certainly this whole program in a nutshell, if I were to summarize the 90 plus years of history, it is a reverse engineering program to garner some kind of insight. And of course, not a lot of the things that we've learned from it are directly ripped off the technology we found, but it has inspired other innovations that made its way into other U.S. classified programs over the year for national defense reasons, and it's a myriad of different things. So
The UFO folklore is that this is where fiber optics were discovered first.
Yeah, I'm not going to break the seal on anything we've discovered or anything like that. And it's a place I can't go to.
How limited are you
Yeah.
in what you can discuss and what you can't discuss, and why?
Yeah.
Why do they let you discuss any of this?
Yeah, so anything sensitive that I want to say as it relates to like U.S. government activity, whether it be intelligence stuff, military stuff, etc., I have to submit it through what they call DOPSR, DoD Office of Pre-Publication and Security Review. That is something anybody who's been an intel officer, anybody with like a clearance, has to submit that kind of stuff. Now, obviously, if you're writing a book about gardening, you don't have to. But if you're going to talk about anything military and intelligence related, you have to submit. So it's kind of a catch-22 for this office, right? They're only looking at it from a security perspective. They're not vouching for it or anything like that. And that's like any author, right? They could write a book about Navy SEALs and they're not vouching for the story. They're vouching that you didn't say any nasty code words. You didn't burn a specific ongoing classified program. And for them, I mean, I'm not in their OODA loop, but certainly it's a catch-22 for them where if they want to redact and they propose a redaction, they're like, hey, Dave, you can't say these sentences. You can rewrite it and resubmit. We can't necessarily tell you what agency said to redact it, but you're not allowed to say this. They would be basically self-certifying there's a there. So in my opinion, probably the policy is like, if it has to deal with the subject, we're not saying anything. We're not proposing any redactions. As long as he's not burning a conventional program, we kind of have to allow him to exercise his First Amendment rights. And so I think it's like a catch-22 for that office is kind of the short of the long answer. So
The ocean is largely undiscovered. One of the things that people need to understand is that most of the exploration of the ocean is really essentially around the outside edges.
That's right.
It's around the shores,
Less than 10%. So,
which is nuts.
a buddy of mine,
90% of the ocean.
That's right.
Like what?
we know more about the moon than the bottom of our own ocean, and so
That's so crazy.
yeah, that's fact.
And these underwater crafts, like this enormous one that apparently was near this oil rig, how many of them have been? Has there been more than one of those videos?
So let me tell you what I can say from open source.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. And then I'll tell you about a conversation I had without attribution because I don't want to get in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Not say everybody. A lot of people are familiar with the Air Force's program called the Fast Walker program, which is a program that was started by the Air Force, among other things, was to detect UFOs. That's a fact. That was part of their mission, to detect a lot of things, adversarial technology, but UFOs was one of them. It's called the Fast Walker program. There was some information that was released publicly about a similar program the Navy has. I can't talk about it because I don't have approval to talk about it, but obviously they're interested because they have equities underwater. They're interested in if there's anything underwater that can perform beyond anything we have. And I remember speaking to one individual who pulled me aside very privately, and he said, Lou, we were tracking this thing doing, and I won't say the exact speed, but hundreds and hundreds of knots underwater, and it was bigger than our own submarine. Right now, you know how big our submarines are, right? They're huge.
Yeah.
And I asked him, naively, I just kind of came out, well, what do you do when you encounter that? And he just said, very honestly, he said, we go around. Just like that, we go around.
Have there been interactions with these things?
I we're not at liberty to discuss any details about that.
Right.
That's not for me to discuss. You and
I got to get drunk.
I'm a lightweight,
I got to get you drunk. Let's go have some whiskey. Find out what the fuck is up. So this thing is bigger than the sub, and they followed it for hundreds of miles.
Let me give you another a great event that occurred, and I'll talk about this because it's not classified.
Okay.
The portions that might be, I don't know about, so it should be fine. There's an individual who I'm aware of who was a helipilot, a helicopter pilot back in the late 90s in the Caribbean, and they were doing missile recovery. So what happened is that the Navy would test fire missiles, and then they kind of run out of fuel, they hit the water, and they sink. And at a predetermined time, they pop to the surface, we grab it with a helicopter, bring it back to shore, and we test it for telemetry and make sure that this cruise missile was doing what it was supposed to do. So they're out there in the helicopter, frogmen hanging down the line. You got the helo pilot, you got the crew chief, and the co-pilot looking all down at the bubble. And as they're about to grab this cruise missile out of the ocean, something huge and round, and what was described to me as black as a devil, starts to rise to the surface. The water begins to churn, very much like David Fravor's description of the Tic Tac incident and the roiling water. The frogman is so freaked out, he's literally trying to climb the line back up. He's like total panic at the disco, right? And the helicopter's like, do we do like an emergency ascent? What the hell's going on here? And right as this thing is about, and by the way, it's the size of a small island and round. Right as this thing is about to break the surface, it sucks the missile down and disappears.
Jesus
and that
Christ.
was, yeah. And Dave Fravor could probably tell you that story a little better than I can. But
What
when you
the
compare
fuck?
that to other things, you got to say,
Imagine being that guy hanging from that line.
no, no, thank you. We call that bait.
Yeah, but it didn't do anything to him.
No.
I would have loved that experience.
Yeah, so that was one of the anecdotes that was revealed to us by one of the
Imagine. Who's
Navy
that
helicopter
SEAL?
pilots.
Who's that guy that was hanging from that?
The frogman?
Was he a SEAL?
I don't know. I only know the
Bro,
pilot.
come talk to me. Please, sir.
I only know the pilot.
We'll put you in a fucking panda outfit. We'll disguise your voice. Tell me what the fuck you saw. I want to hear that story. Oh my God. A small island.
Yep.
Black as the devil in
and
a small
round.
island and round.
Yeah, submarines look like this, right? They're not
Right,
round.
right.
So, yeah. So that was one of the anecdotes that was shared with us. Obviously Puerto Rico with the there's been some UAPs that have been recorded off there. Everybody knows about Aguadilla, the Aguadilla incident.
I don't know about it.
Oh, I'm sure you do. You don't
I
know
do?
about the
Tell me.
Wow.
Trust me.
So you can look it up online. There's a video taken by a DHS helicopter of a very interesting object. At first, it appears to be like perhaps a balloon, but then it does all sorts of weird stuff. And as they're tracking it, it enters the water without making a splash. You can track it underwater. Then it comes up and splits into two. And it's been analyzed over and over again by a lot of experts. It's called the Aguadilla incident.
Maybe I have seen this. Is it kind of blurry looking night
There we
vision?
go. That's it.
Oh, wow.
And so keep watching that, and I'll tell you a little story about this. This is a Customs and Border Protection released this.
How fast is this thing going?
So if you look here, they're looking at this through a form of night vision. I don't know the exact velocity. All that is available. But if you keep watching this, something interesting happens. So here it goes. You're going to see this thing enter the water here. There he goes, underwater, and then it pops back up and splits into two. They're tracking it. See, no waves, no wake. And then it surfaces and then does something pretty interesting here. So keep watching.
So it's going high speed through the water.
Underwater. That's underwater. Then it breaks the surface of the water again. Keep watching. Boom, underwater, over water, boom, underwater, out of water, and then you'll see it split into two. So
I didn't see it split into two. Did you see it?
If you watch the rest of the video, there it is.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, the
Okay,
video is
there.
actually really long, but that's just one example. This is these are, you can see all these videos. They're prevalent. They're everywhere. You see the aircraft on the bottom right. You see the UAP on top that's tracking it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No wings, no control surfaces, and it keeps up with the A-10 and does all sorts of interesting maneuvers. Right. So that's an A-10 Warthog.
And this thing's just following it.
Yep, like it's nothing.
Do you think they're trying to let people see them? Like, if you had a guess?
I don't know. I mean, could it be a demonstration of capabilities? We do that, right? Every time a Russian surveillance aircraft comes by, we launch two F-22s and we get real close to it and say, hey,
Right.
be careful.
But not even from a military perspective. Like, if a civilization was trying to alert another civilization about its presence, wouldn't it go towards whatever military vehicles it has and show itself? And then I would imagine that if they understand human beings, they understand our psychology, and they understand that some giant size of an island, black as the devil, circular craft that lands next to the Pentagon would fucking end the world. We would freak out. No one would know what to do. That would be stock market crash, mass chaos. No one would know what to do. The way to introduce yourself, I would imagine, would be gradual over a long period of time to allow this civilization to accept the fact these things exist, and then slowly but surely show versions of themselves. Yeah, I got home from the Comedy Store at like 2, and then I watched some goofy. I've been on this UFO documentary kick.
Watching UFO documentaries?
Yeah, I told you it was David. I started talking about it.
Yeah,
but,
we were talking about that.
yeah.
What were you? Did you have something specific that you saw recently?
Yeah,
the documentary.
2 of them. One of them is Area 51, Bob Lazar, and Area 51 and flying saucers. It's a documentary on this guy who claimed that he worked on these alien ships in Area 51 in the 1980s.
That gave me chills.
As time's gone on, more of the things that he said have proven to actually be true.
Like what?
Including an element that he talked about, element 115, I think it was called.
Like an organism from outer space?
No, an element, like a man-created element, like there's carbon.
Right.
There's an element that they created that he talked about way before it was ever publicized. And he talked about this thing, and then it turned out to be true. He talked about these, there's these hand monitors that you would put your hand on this thing, and these metal lines would detect the distances in the bones of your fingers, the exact distances, and everyone is different. It's like a signature thing. Mm-hmm. And that they could find out if it was you or not you that was trying to go through. So the way they would scan people, the bioscan, would literally measure the bones in their fingers. And people said that was horseshit.
Wild.
He talked about this in the 1980s. People said it was horseshit, but then later on turned out, no, they did have that in Los Alamos. They did have that in Area 51, and that this technology was very, very
advanced.
Not just very advanced, but it was not well known at all. Like very few people did. And this guy who was creator of this documentary, it was very difficult for them to get photos of this hand scanner. But this hand scanner did exist and existed exactly as this guy described it.
In the 80s, I mean, that's super progressive for that time.
There's also
even
people
for now.
that did approve his top secret clearance to get to this place. They know that he actually worked there. There's people that worked in the same Los Alamos lab with him. They tried to say he never worked there, but his name's on the manifest. It's very strange. It's like they've tried to erase parts of this guy's past because he filmed a bunch of their crafts as they were flying around. Like he knew what days. This is the thing. That thing right there, you put your hand on that, and it actually measures the distance of the size and length of your bones.
That looks like something that's inside of an escape room in L.A.
It does. It's hilarious. It's so true. But
Doesn't it?
I went into this documentary skeptical.
As you should.
Yeah, but I'm so done with all those things. But listen to this guy talk for a while. After a while, I was like, what if he's telling the truth? Like, what if he is actually telling the truth? Because if he's actually telling the truth, there is some part of the government that had access, at least in the 1980s, to alien technology.
I mean,
there
it probably
spaceships.
is. There probably is some truth to that. Crazier things have happened. And also, like, just your mentality of believing him is probably the same thing that made Dr. Malachi Lovejoy Robinson III become successful.
A con artist?
Yeah. I mean, either this dude, there's validity of what he's saying in this documentary, which I can't wait to watch, or he's just really great at painting a picture. Some people are so good at convincing you
That's true.
of truths.
True.
There's, people with like borderline personality disorder and every sort of spectrum in between there. They become really good manipulators.
That is true. However, usually they do that in more than one avenue.
Absolutely.
And this guy's not doing that.
Yeah, so if
He's
it's just a documentary, then...
Yeah, also hasn't varied his story. Like, I mean, he might have, like, changed the way he says things in terms of, like, the words he chooses, but the actual story is exactly the same as he was telling a long time ago.
Is this a self-produced documentary, or is there a production company involved?
No, a production company
See, that's where
involved.
it's like, okay, there's probably some validity to this.
But this guy's been around for a long time. I remember reading about him and watching videos about him, 20 years ago.
I mean, don't you think you're somebody who, you said, and I know this about you, you love space. You're obsessed with that, the idea of what we are in the solar system and beyond. Like, how impossible is it to think that there could be a creature that could breach our atmosphere with some advanced technology and be able to just sort of chill scoot around, scoots, magoots, check us out, and fucking peace out back up to wherever they're from.
I don't think that's how they would do it, but yeah, I know what you're saying.
You know exactly. They scoots,
magoots.
Yeah, they just kind of cruise around. They're looking at us.
Well, he had an interesting
Little
analogy.
reconnaissance.
He said if you brought an atomic engine to these people that live in the Victorian era and said, "Hey, this is a nuclear power plant. Like here, check this out." They would fuck with it. They'd wind up getting sick from radiation. They'd wind up dying. No one would understand what it was or how it worked. They would never figure it out.
Right.
He goes, why would we assume that this is only from that one time with this one device? Why wouldn't we assume that there'd be some other technology that maybe we'll create someday in the future? I'm paraphrasing him very poorly.
Yes, it's okay.
Or someone
You're a
else
scientist.
from another planet would create that we wouldn't understand at all. And he said, and that's what we were dealing with when we were trying to back engineer the propulsion systems that these things use. They use some gravity-based propulsion system. And it was something that would manipulate gravity in front of it. It's very, look, I'm too stupid to know the science of it. I don't know if he's if you were
You're
a scientist.
You're supposed to know these things.
Not yet. I have to get my degree.
Joseph
I need to
Rogan.
get a degree so I can call myself a doctor.
You should.
I just want to get an honorary one like Cosby had.
Why? It's gone now. He doesn't have it. He doesn't have it anymore.
Back.
They
The
took that
honorary
shit
ones
back.
they could take back.
Yeah, take them back. He can't keep those.
Yeah.
He can't keep that.
Actually, I think he wrote an essay, and that's how they gave him his doctorate. But that's
mean,
neither here nor there.
gross.
Probably got more than one doctorate.
I'm sure he did, and he didn't deserve them. But I think, there's got to be stuff out there.
Oh, 100%.
100%.
But I like to say there's not. It's like, stop.
You think
Stop
this is just
dwelling
it?
No, I don't think it is. But it is entirely possible. I use that phrase too often.
And it's entirely possible.
Yeah.
You got to get a
I gotta get a
mashup of
new
all
one.
of those.
Oh, it's already out there. Yeah. It's hilarious. It's like 150,000 of them.
That needs to be on a shirt.
It's possible that we're the most advanced. That's possible.
It is a possibility.
too, because something has to be the most advanced.
Absolutely, and something has to be the least. We could also be on that part of the spectrum.
Sure.
Maybe we're the last to evolve.
It's 100% possible. Like if there's an infinite number of life forms out there, like if there's an infinite number of planets and there's an infinite number of Earth-like planets that can have beings like us on it, who's to say that we're not the most advanced? Maybe they're all like people from the 1820s.
Yeah, they're
They
still
haven't caught up to us yet.
chiseling shit. They're still doing,
I don't think they chiseled in the 1820s.
stone and chisels. But I'm talking like old shit. They don't even have pens and papers yet.
Like the orangutan that was fishing with a spear.
Exactly. There's just a bunch of advanced orangutans that are like, putting hieroglyphics in caves.
It's possible.
It is very possible.
It's totally possible.
But because we're just basing it off of our own experience and
Right.
perception of what we have been exposed to. We have no idea.
The other really interesting scenario is that they're time travelers.
Oh,
Is
that's
that-
that's exciting to think
what
about.
they are is some being from the far distant future that understands that it could come back and observe us and see like where things went wrong, where things went right, but do so in a way that's as minimally intrusive as possible and occasionally interfere with things.